Please join us as we follow the train and go from Collettsville to Mortimer, Edgemont, and on into Roseboro.
Standing on the grade for the C&NW Railroad, and we're standing in the Setzers Creek community. In fact, we're at the home of Irene Hartsoe, and this is the motor grade, or the railroad grade. You can see where it's level down past us here. Heading to Collettsville.
And it ran right by that pine tree there,
Right.
across the cut of the hill. We're on our way to Collettsville. Right here's where the railroad used to run. And then we're going to go on to Edgemont and Mortimer.
This is the concrete bridge abutment where the train crossed Mulberry Creek. This is the little park that's constructed here at the Tom Moore gristmill location, and also at the intersection of Glass Road and Highway 90.
Wayne has found something new here. Wayne, tell us about this.
I think this is part of the railroad trestle. Could have been some of the siding off from the front of the depot, but it's a new find for me. I didn't even know this was here, but I want to find out what the history of it is. This is where the Collettsville Railroad Depot stood. In 2010, Collettsville Historical Society had Mary Lou Spencer to paint this mural showing the train and also the depot that used to be located here in Collettsville.
And off behind Wayne was where the old depot was that we just came from. There was a big water tank for the train located about where those trees are now. The railroad water tank was located where the Bluffs are now. These are photos of the old trestle at Collettsville, and the two black and white photos are from Cecil Haley negative collection. At first I thought this was flood damage, but later found out that it was demolished.
This is a Clean Clark, also known as a Murphy house, and it housed boarders when the train ran in this area.
And we're very close to where that trestle was, right?
Yeah, right behind you.
And Wayne says the Adako trestle started over where you see the road and continued on around. It had a bow in it. And Wayne, you say it ended right down there.
Okay, where the house is located over here,
right,
was the other end of that trestle. I'm standing at the site of the former Adako depot on top of Adako Hill. This property is now owned by Lorraine and Floyd Keys.
And they moved it right where that house is sitting now.
That was a depot? Okay.
They moved it with railroad jacks.
Right. Well, now where was the store building? George Ivy Kincaid.
It was right down yonder.
Okay, that's what I was wanting to know then. This is Carroll Mill Creek. There's a trestle across this creek right here for the train to run on.
trestle right across here. Of the thousands of photos I have, I'll include a few of the best. This Adako trestle is supposedly one of the highest trestles in the world. Downtown Collettsville in 1911, railroad tracks left of picture that ran to about where the Berea Church is today. Johns River to the left, ford for crossing Johns River. Building in the center is Dr. White's office and drugstore. Left center is L.A. Ramser Photo Shop. Right side of the road is Mac Moore General Store with hay and feed storage building. Cora Moore House, the building in back, is the blacksmith shop. Upper left is a log dam across Johns River, a shingle plant and a lumber yard. Notice all the trees have been cut off the mountains. The present Highway 90 road has been moved more to the center bottom of the picture. Left to right, Jim Estes, Hub Estes, Wallace Key, Roby Green, Wallace Estes, Unknown, Clyde Taylor Store building on the left side, Grisette Flour Mill on the right side of the photo. Self-rising flour was developed at this site. So left to right, Thomas Klingman Vines, Cora Franklin Vines, Fred Calvin, Howard, Bill, Rachel. Tall girl in the white is Lucy, was married to James Huss Crump. Sitting is Bill Crump, Lucille, Nellie, baby on lap of Thomas, Dan, Tommy, Lloyd on lap of Cora and Dave. A little confusing? Yes, to me too. Thomas Jasper Tom Moore grist mill that stood at the intersection of the Glass Road and Highway 90. In earlier days, this area was known as Coffee Siding for the railroad. Julius Phillips originally built this mill. John and Helen Estes Phillips Grocery and Service Station was located at the intersection of the Abington Road and Highway 90. Left to right, Edwin Phillips, Earl Chandler, Verona Bell Estes Chandler. The millstones in this wall, and there are two, came from the home of Shirley Moore Haley. She was Banks Haley's wife, who ran Haley's picture framing at the corner of Hospital Avenue and East Harper. The millstones came from her father's mill near Coffee Siding at the Glass Road on Highway 90. This is the Collettsville trestle. At first I thought it was washed away, damaged by the flood, but it was later found out that it was demolished. This is Calvin Hall, the game warden for Brown Mountain Beach. Years ago, this is what remained of the Lady on the Rock. It's gone now. This is an interview about the man who painted the Lady on the Rock in the Wilsons Creek Gorge area of Caldwell County, North Carolina, as told by his wife, Mrs. Grace Sharp Walker. My husband, Ira Clyde Walker, painted the Lady on the Rock in the Wilsons Creek area in 1947. He was born in Wilkes County, North Carolina, one of 9 children in the family. He had a very limited education because that was during the Depression era. Ira never took any art classes. It was a talent that he was born with, that he pursued since he was a young child. He moved to Caldwell County to find work when he was old enough to do public work. I first met him at a ball game at Gamewell High School in 1936. We were married in 1938. We were blessed with 6 children, Clyde, Dennis, Ted, Ray, Sarah, who was also called Sis, and Howard, who was called Butch. One day we took the family on an outing to Wilson's Creek to picnic and swim. Ira took a bucket of paint with him. While the children were playing, he started painting this picture of the Lady on the Rock. He did not have a model to look at, it was just in his head. He painted the entire picture in one day. Butch would go up there every so often after his dad, Ira, passed away to do touch-up work on the painting. Ira, in his spare time, would sit around and either draw or carve something out of wood. One time, he had this truck. He painted a lady on each door. He drove that truck for years. Every time someone saw him coming down the road, they would say, "Here comes Ira." He finally sold it to some man up in Blowing Rock, and after the truck quit running, the owner parked it beside the highway, and every time we went up that way, we would look for the truck. Tragically, Ira passed away in 1960 at the age of 42 with leukemia. He left something that people have talked about for years in the Wilson Creek area. This is Ron McDaniel, the owner of the Brown Mountain Beach Resort now. This is the intersection at Betsy's Country Store. A contrast to the crowded schools of today is this neat little building and the group of students. At the right is the teacher, Miss Kate Torrance, and others from the right to the left are Annie Setzer, now Mrs. L.F. Day, Lucille Setzer, Mrs. Jim Clay, Ralph Setzer, Bessie Mulwee, Fanny Foster, Alma Setzer, who is now Mrs. H.H. Austin, Ruth Moore, Buna Pierce, Hill Foster, Gwen Foster, Bob Coffey, and on the steps are Wade Foster on the right, R.J. Setzer of the R.J. Setzer Grocery, and H.H. Setzer. Mr. and Mrs. T.S. Setzer moved to the Edgemont area where Mr. Setzer was engaged in the lumber business in 1908, and there was no school near enough for their children to attend. So, Mr. Setzer got busy and had the building erected for this purpose, and also for the other children in the community. This same building is now in use for school days at Edgemont. This is the Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC camp, picnic area. This is where the medical facility was at the CCC camp. I believe these were the side steps to the medical facility. Wayne is in the backyard of the Moore Rab home, which is now a graveyard. This is the rear of the Moore Rab home, not far from the Edgemont Baptist Church. This is the baggage building for the Edgemont Depot. And this is the Edgemont Depot that is now a private residence, and it has been moved back from the road. And this, of course, is some old medicine bottles in the medicine cabinet at the old Edgemont Depot. And this is the fireplace at the Edgemont Depot, but I believe the owner said this is not original. And this is the baggage storage area. This was beside the depot when the depot was up next to the road. If it was just for baggage, why is one door smaller than the other? Also, why is the building heated? I think one of these doors might have led to a waiting room and the other might have been an office at one time. The doors to this building were nailed shut, and in order to take photos, I had to stick my camera through a broken window and screen and take photos. Now, this right-hand side also has a trap door going into the basement, and I think this may have been an office. Jamie Cool has opened this store again in Edgemont, and I hope to do a photo shoot with her. I restored this very old photo that supposedly was in the Mortimer, Edgemont area. It has been said that Queen Forbes did just a little bit more than run a boarding house. These two photos are actually from the Cecil Haley negative collection that I converted to photos. Very rare photos, one of a kind. I don't know if they were ever printed.
This is an aqueduct that was built to support the train trestle above it up there. You can see where the level grade train crossed overhead. Built out of river rock.
Okay, now we're at Brown Mountain Beach, and I haven't been here since I was like 13 or 14 years old with my older sisters. And about in the center of this is where the diving board used to be. And Wayne is saying that there is a dam that used to be here long ago, and you can see what's left of it. And that was in the 1900s, Wayne?
Yeah. Back in the early days of Brown Mountain Beach Resort, it was during the Prohibition, where you had to have speakeasies, as they were called. And this is one that's being reconstructed now.
Now this is the powerhouse up here at Brown Mountain Beach. And of course the dam supplied the power. And that's where the generator was, right, Wayne?
Right. This happened in September. A gentleman's daughter got married here, and I was talking to the gentleman downstairs, and he told me, he said, Ron, I invited my elderly uncle to come to the wedding by a written invitation, but I called him and told him, you don't have to come because you don't know my daughter. And he says, no, I've got to come. And I asked him why. He said, my mother and daddy met in the speakeasy in 1927. That's where they met down there. They were riding the train up, and they all stopped the train in the middle of the track, and they got off and came down here and got a drink. And it's an amazing story. I mean, it's just great history, but he was almost crying when he told me that. He was so happy that he got to actually see it. And there was another gentleman here, when I first bought the place, he came up to introduce himself to me. He's a black man, and he was black as he could be, but he had a beard that was white as snow. He looked like something out of Walt Disney. He was incredible. Nicest guy, polished, just incredible. And he was telling me what he did here. And he said it snowed real bad one year here. He said the snow was up to your chest. And he said the boss on the railroad said, who would get on the handcart and go up to Mortimer and see if the train can make it, because you didn't know what the snow had washed down. And this guy said, I volunteered and did it. And he says, I got on the handcart and went up the rail. He said, I got up to Mr. Walker's, and there was a little footbridge that went across to Mr. Walker's. And he said, I went across the footbridge and knocked on the door. Mr. Walker said, what you want? He said, I need some coffee. He said, how much coffee you need? He said, about a half a pint. He said, he got him a half a pint of coffee and took off on that cart and went right on up to the hotel. And he said, there's another black gentleman that worked in the hotel. There was nobody else there. And he says that half pint of coffee is what kept them alive that night. They sat around there stroking the wood stove and drank that little bit of liquor, and that's what kept them alive. And said when the morning, said he got up and he got on the handcart and came back down to tell the boss that everything was okay. And said when we got off the handcart and got here, he said the snow was so high that it had washed all the blue boy out of his overalls, and they were white from here down.
We're standing at the side of where the Wilson Creek Rock Crushing Company was located. We're standing at the supply line for the rocks, the granite rocks that was pulled out of here for the rock crushing company. It's located down on the highway.
Okay, Wayne Beane says that the lady on the rock used to be on this side, a little up and on the right. And we can't see that on this trip. Okay, show me, Wayne, where the track went.
Okay. We're looking at where the railroad track met Wilson's Creek. It stayed on the right side of the creek all the way up through here.
And it went all the way around through here. If you can see the flat area, and I believe you'll be able to see that flat area about in the center right here, about 30 feet up the bank. Wayne said this was owned by Hut and Bubonis and was called Hutburg, and it was a small community that had a church, schools, and what else, Wayne?
Post office.
And a post office.
The location of Ritter's Lumber Company mill. This was one of their drying sheds or either operation sheds, what's remaining of it. Okay, we're standing at the location which used to be the O.P. Lutz Cotton Mill, or United Cotton Mill, originally started here, using water power to run their plant. This building had a basement in it. But when the county given this part to build a park, they took a lot of the debris from these other buildings and filled in the basement part of this building right here. Okay, we've left Collettsville. It's about 12 or 13 miles, and we haven't crossed Wilson's Creek yet. This is the first crossing of Wilson's Creek with a train since we left Collettsville. This is in the town of Mortimer, and the railroad bridge abutments behind me. There's one laying down, and it wasn't seen until 2004 when it came that flood up here. It washed all the dirt and debris away from it, and people were able to see it again. I'm standing at the location where the Mortimer depot for the railroad was located. Okay, we're standing at the site where the Ritter Company store for the town of Mortimer was located. The Collettsville Historical Society placed this marker flagpole here in 2007 when we celebrated the centennial celebration of Mortimer. This is the third crossing of the railroad tracks on Wilson's Creek.
And there's an abutment on the other side, but I doubt that we can see it. And here is the other part of that abutment.
Okay, back behind me was the location of the Laurel Inn, which was an inn here for workers and also visitors for the town of Mortimer. The inn was located, which would be to my right, and off to the left on the flat part you see about halfway up was where the garage was located. We're standing at the side of the Laurel Inn. in Mortimer. This is what remains of the Laurel Inn building.
These are the columns for the front porch of the Laurel Inn in Mortimer.
We're standing at the location of what they call Hackett's Cut. Ritter was after Mr. Hackett to get the road cleared for the train, putting a lot of pressure on him. And as soon as he finished this section of the railroad track, the next day Mr. Hackett committed suicide.
This is a small house, well sealed inside, has good windows, and is furnished only with a number of good benches and a platform which extends across one end of the room. No charts, no maps, no pictures or blackboards. During our visit to the community, Superintendent Moore secured the services of some of the citizens in the interest of the school for the approaching session. We did not meet our appointment here on account of bad weather and worse side roads. The new town of Mortimer is being built up near this school, but the spirit of commercialism seems to prevail, the chief industry being lumber. The superintendent of works in charge of the company's interests there promised Superintendent Moore that he would cooperate with the County Board of Education in the establishment of a school for the town later. It does not seem fitting, however, that in the upbuilding of towns, churches, and schools should be the last enterprises to receive attention. Still, I do not know the reasons why this hustling little mountain town has not already had a good school. Rufus Milton and Eliza Beard Adkins, with children Pearl, Mary, John, and Millie. Rufus was beheaded at the United Milling Company in Mortimer. Aerial view of Mortimer. The CCC camp in Mortimer, North Carolina, 1938. Ritter Lumber Company, Queen Forbes Boarding House, Mortimer, North Carolina. The last house that was standing in Mortimer, North Carolina, the Gregg House. These two photos are in the Edgemont, Mortimer area and are from the Cecil Haley negative collection, which I converted into photos, very rare photos. This is showing flood damage. These are lumber camp workers in Edgemont or Mortimer. This is a lumber crane in Mortimer. And this is the Mortimer Bridge. Mortimer Cotton Mill in 1923. This is the Mortimer Hotel. This is the home place on Craig Creek Road, Mortimer, North Carolina, of Isaac M. Phillips, Lavicia Weiss, Marcus Phillips, son of Joel and Selena Estes Phillips. This is the Ritter Sawmill in Mortimer, and it washed away in the 1916 flood.
We're standing at the side of the CCC camp here in Mortimer. It's Camp F5. It was here from 1933 to 1941. And then behind me is where the camp buildings and the cafeteria, bunkhouses, and everything was located. This was also Company 403, CCC.
And there's a graveyard behind there, right?
Let's go on up there. Yeah. Okay, this is the site where the CCC camp commander's house was located. And you can see in some of those old photos when the 1940 flood come, you can see this house is still standing. And the vehicles were down below us here, covered with water.
And this little place we're standing is right behind the CCC camp.
All right, we're standing at the Mortimer Cemetery behind the CCC camp location in Mortimer, North Carolina. And this cemetery is still used today and still maintained by the U.S. Forest Service. It is.
Sarah, wife of James Estes, born in 1813. Now we're looking down the hill of the Mortimer Cemetery. We're looking towards the CCC camp.
This is the gravesite of Mabel Gertz and Nanny Bailey, two teenage girls that their fathers worked for Ritter Lumber Company, and they were from Pennsylvania. And one afternoon they were swimming down at Crystal Pool in Wilson's Creek, and both of them drowned, and they were interred here at the Mortimer Cemetery.
And tell us about the lightning strike, Wayne.
When we were documenting this cemetery in 2007, lightning had hit this metal fence here, and it blowed out the cover, the concrete that was over Mrs. Bailey's gravesite. There was a dog here that had a litter of pups back up under the shelter of the concrete here. This is the home site, remains of the home site of the CCC camp commander's house in Mortimer.
Wayne was saying that the train ran right along where I'm videoing here.
At the Mortimer Bridge, Mortimer Edgemont Bridge.
Right. We're real close to a concrete abutment for the railway that you'll see in a minute. This is a really beautiful place.
This is the last railroad bridge abutment crossing Wilson's Creek before you get into Edgemont. We have a photo of the CCC boys rebuilding this bridge in 1940, showing the depot in the background.
And in the distance here across the creek, you can see the other part of that abutment. And you can see the flat where the tracks used to run if the sun doesn't bleach this out.
This is the Edgemont Depot. It's constructed here about 1907. It's now a private residence and has been for several years.
Okay. And Wayne said that it used to be close to the road here. They moved it back maybe because of flood damage. And you have a little building that used to be right beside it. Okay, Wayne said that's a baggage house. Out this road beside the Edgemont Depot was a well. And it was just that, just a well, not for filling the engines or anything, we think, just a well. And Wayne also said that this is the railroad grade where the railroad used to run.
Okay, this is the site of the former Edgemont Hotel.
And this monument here was built from the old stones from the Edgemont Hotel in memory of Donnie Rich Patton. It was erected in 1940, and back behind Wayne you can see the remains of the Edgemont Hotel.
If you look over that way, you can see the depot. And
there was a swinging bridge that went from the Edgemont Hotel all the way across to the depot, across the stream, and you can see the depot where we just came from a few minutes ago in the distance. And now we're at the Edgemont Baptist Church. As far as I know, I have never taken any video of this. And of course up behind the church is the graveyard. This little cabin beside Edgemont Baptist Church, we don't know the history of it, but it's old. It's been there a long time. And this is Archie Coffey's gravesite here at the Edgemont Baptist Church, and he used to run the store here in Edgemont.
this is the gravesite of Sandra Clore Coffey. She was instrumental in helping to form the Collettsville Historical Society back in 2005, November 2005.
And her daughter's right here too.
Former Edgemont Public School,
Yeah,
now a private residence.
okay. You know what year it was built? Have any idea? Offhand?
I'd have to look and see, I don't
Okay.
remember.
And then in the distance, I believe that's the Moore Rab House. I was friends with Bill Rab and came up here one weekend, and we shot skeet behind that house. And I was 9 or 10 years old, and we also went to the church that Sunday morning, to the Baptist church. Little trivia. And now we're at Coffey's General Store in Edgemont. So many people have talked about this store. Archie Coffey ran this store. And right across from the general store, from Coffey's store, is this wildlife checkpoint, checking-in station. And Coffey's General Store also doubled as the post office for Edgemont. Well, Old Glory is awfully tattered. So my friend Wayne Beane is he brought his ladder with him, and he's gonna put up a new flag.
Ah, it looks better now. This is the Madison and Granny Gregg home place in Roseboro, North Carolina. They were early settlers in this community.
Now, so many young people don't know what an outhouse is, but you're looking at one. It's padlocked, or I'd show you the inside. And this is the Gregg Schoolhouse in Roseboro, North Carolina. Now, this dates back. How far, I don't know. Quite a trip up here to Roseboro from near Edgemont, but it's a beautiful place to be. And it's worth it just to see this. And tell me again what this house is. Who did it belong to?
It's Madison and Granny Gregg. Her name was Caroline.
There's a schoolhouse over here called the Webb Schoolhouse. And Wayne, do you know about how far back that dates? 1800s maybe? Okay, and there's a cutest little chapel right here. This was built not too long ago. And we're still in Roseboro.
Carolina blue sky, the stars they dance and shine. Morning doves are singing high up in the pines. Outer banks are calling the beauty of Cape Clear. Mountain streams are running full with water cool and clear. Carolina, from the mountains down to the sea. Have always beckoned me. Carolina, no matter what this old world holds up for my eyes to see. Now Carolina, I swear before the stars above, you're always home to me.
Thanks to Martika and William Lake for their music. Thanks to the Neighbors Band for their music. I did not own the page Caldwell County Now and Then, so I started my own page, Lenore and Caldwell County History.